This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by Productivity Authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live Game Changers Experience podcast, a live show with myself, Adam Strong. Today, I really wanted to jump on here purely because I wanted to really kind of go through with you guys about some of the rookie mistakes that some of you guys are making on a day-to-day basis, especially if you're a business owner, a leader, or an entrepreneur, right? Rookie mistakes that you're making when you're trying to seek clarity and focus. So that is the premise of today. I'm really looking forward to today's conversations. Do me a favor. I know we've got quite a few people listening in. If you're listening to me live, use the hashtag live, use the hashtag replay. That'd be super awesome. And do me a favor, give us a like, share, or a comment on the comment section below. If you're listening to me on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube, you'll see a little bell notification, which is at the top right-hand corner of my profile pictures. If you click on that, you'll be able to get a notification every time I go live, put out content, so you don't miss out on all the big opportunities. If you're listening to me on the podcast, and put all the show notes below, I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear from you guys with regards to today's content, and more sober, any content that that I've created or what we've created that has resonated with you. I'd love to hear from you about today. Anyway, let's get straight into today's show, because I'm excited about today, because I wanted to share with you guys not only some personal stories, but also to share some of the things that I've done in terms of rookie mistakes that maybe that you're doing right now. And you think to yourself, okay, maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm maybe not moving as fast as I could potentially be. Does that make sense? So let's get into the gist of today. If you listen to me live, use the hashtag live, and obviously make any comments in the comment section below. That'd be super awesome as well. Okay, so what's the first big rookie mistake when it comes to trying to seek clarity and focus? Well, I always found that one of the biggest mistakes that I found was setting unrealistic goals and expectations of myself. And what I mean by that is, and especially at the, during a holiday period or after the holiday period, is that we have with great intention to be able to, have a great year ahead, you'll probably find that you're in an emotional state of motivation and flow, and you really want to make things work. But what I found is that what tends to happen is that you get overwhelmed with lots of different ideas, and then you start, I don't know if you've ever done this at all, but you set unrealistic goals and time frames with regards to execution. And that could be anything, right? So, you probably heard of the whole kind of like to-do list. If you are working with a to-do list, for example, okay, what you'll find is, that to-do list is probably going to be very, very big. But as soon as you start completing all of those tasks, that one-page to-do list then becomes a three-page to-do list, right? So it creates ongoing problems as we go forward, if that makes sense. But, what I found from experience, especially when it comes to things like creating content, when it comes to things such as, dealing with clients on a day-to-day basis or whatever it is, as you start to get experience, okay, you'll start to, and also through practice and repetition, you'll start to get to a flow state of knowing how long it's going to take for you to create a video, how long it's going to take for you to, work with a client or whatever it might be. I always feel like, if there are things that you're doing to work on the business, okay, set a time frame. Don't put unnecessary pressure. Focus is really, really key, of course, but to make sure that, you set realistic time frames about completing certain tasks and activities. Because if you don't, then what happens is then you end up getting frustrated at the end of the week. You feel like you've never accomplished anything, and then you never celebrate your wins. Does that make sense? So I wanted to kind of like that was kind of like my big thought process at the beginning anyway. So that was that. The second one is not being strategic. Now I wanted to quickly share a bit of a story about the whole kind of not being strategic in terms of the rookie mistakes, because one of the things that I love doing, and this may be the same for yourself, but one of the things that I really love doing is building human connection. That means going out to do some networking, meeting people face to face. Now, one of the big rookie mistakes that I used to make, because I always thought that by going to every event that I could find, whether it be Chamber of Commerce's events, whether it be I don't know, just general networking events, associations, or whatever it might be, I might go to I used to go to I don't know, like 10, 12 a week, which was a lot, right? Especially in London. And I found that at the end of the week, even though I'd have some good connection, I'd always found that I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And it was interesting because I'd analyzed this and I thought to myself, why is it that I wasn't getting the result from my from my networking, right? Well, first of all, I believe that you have to be in the right state of mind. And what do I mean by that? I don't know if you guys have ever felt like this, but you walk into a room of people that are talking and chatting, and you feel like you're a bit of an intruder. And it's interesting. Even though I'd like to see myself as a bit of an extrovert, there are times where I will walk into a room where I feel a little bit introverted. It's not that I have a bad attitude or anything, but for you guys that are listening, for you guys that are introverts, by the way, you feel like, number one, you're an intruder, but it's kind of like, it's like you're twiddling your thumbs, and it's like, well, how do I kind of I don't want to jump into the party, try to start a conversation, and I don't want to feel like I'm intruding on someone's conversation. It just feels rude and unprofessional. But you're going to get those times where you think, if I got something to say to people, you may feel like you're repeating yourself or whatever it is. But one of the things I used to do, like I said, is going from networking to networking event with not really any strategy in place. I didn't record my leads. I collect business cards, but there wasn't really a system to be able to. Yes, I was doing the odd follow up here and there, but I really wasn't taking advantage of the opportunities that were led in front of me. But also because I felt like, I felt like networking was a great opportunity. It wasn't strategic in the way that I was just going out to do any general networking, if that makes sense. So I don't know if you've ever done this. You'd spent hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, on a monthly basis going to these flashy events. But in actual fact, your ideal clients weren't there. The types of conversations were just not resonating with certain people. It's going to take a little bit of time. So that's my second biggest thing, is not being strategic in your execution. And there's not, and I was just using networking as an example, of course. And that could be when we think about being strategic. I'm thinking there are other examples, for example. So you may be on every single social media channel, right? And you're really trying to and you're struggling to come up with different content ideas, as an example, right? So you'll generally just speak about random stuff, but there is very little correlation between what you do and the message that you're trying to put out and prevail, if that makes sense. So you've got to be strategic in your execution and really assess and analyze and measure, from a systems perspective, to see what that looks like. Because I can tell you now, if you're doing networking, especially live in-person networking, is that 95% of the things that's out there in terms of associations and Chamber of Commerce's and blah, 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 most of them are not worth joining, purely because they're not interested in you as an individual. They're only interested in making money. Okay, so they have a different agenda themselves. So that's the second one. The third one, which I think is really interesting, but again, I'm going to share a quick story as well. But the third one is all about, I suppose, carrying out the same regular routines, carrying out the same regular, carrying out the same regular routines, but expecting a different result. So basically, what I mean by that is, for example, if you are going to the same environment, the same office, working from home a lot of the time, looking at the same four walls, hanging out with the same people, and 2, 3, 4 months, 5 months down the line, you're still not any further along in terms of like how you're growing as a person, but how your business is growing, is that your mindset is very, very fixed. So carrying out the same daily chores, activities, and routines, mix it up, right? Do something which is completely out of, number one, out of your comfort zone, but completely ad hoc, if that makes sense. So, and one of the things that I like to do, and again, this creates different self-awareness. If you, for example, and this is saying completely random, by the way, but if you were going to the office, for example, and there's a particular route that you take, whether it be, I don't know, you might jump on the train and, it takes you 26 minutes, for example. Guess what? Take a different route or take a different mode of transport, shake things up, do things differently. That's what I find is being really good. The other thing which really pisses me off, actually, excuse my French, but it really pisses me off. And the reason it pisses me off is because one of the, I suppose, a number of core values for me is all about integrity, right? And one of the things that really drives me crazy from my perspective, right, is copying others. It really drives me crazy because I've got, obviously, I've got a wealth of experience, etc. But when I notice whether it be someone who is maybe in the same industry as me, and they start to copy word for word the content that I'm creating, that really annoys me. And it's not authentic. It's going to come back and bite you on the butt. But it's also an act of desperation, right? Because what that shows you is that it shows that you don't have any of your own ideas. It shows that you're not using your imagination. It shows that you've given up. So by copying others, it doesn't create this uniqueness about you at all, because guess what? It's, you're going to get called out one way or another. And especially if you've got if you're attracting a similar audience, and there may be an audience member that maybe follows, say, me and somebody else, right? And they're gonna be like, that, one person is gonna be like, well, this person definitely didn't create this piece of content or copy or whatever it is. Okay, it belongs to this person, and that's really gonna affect your integrity, but it's also gonna damage your long-term personal brand. Do you see what I mean? So, kind of bear that in mind, because I really feel like, that this is something that we don't normally talk about, but I love talking about controversial topics, as you guys know. Anyway, the last one for me, really, from my perspective, and again, I feel like this is so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's so underrated, is taking advice from others that are less successful, or taking advice from another person or whoever it might be that has no correlation or has zero experience or very little experience in what you're trying to achieve in terms of a vision. I actually were on, we host a great Game Changers in a Circle. We had my good friend Ash Lawrence, and he was talking about the fact that the best way to really get clarity and direction is actually by learning from others that have been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, right? Because if you can learn from those people, you can learn based on the mistakes that they've made, right? Some of the things that's helped them along the way, but also it's just a great way to it's just a great way to really tap into their area of expertise. Because otherwise, if you're taking advice from less successful people or even your spouse, now, by the way, full disclosure, I'm not a relationship coach. But if you've got people like family members and friends, people in your network that are not uplifting you, that are not taking you to the next level, that are someone that is, you need to be able to hang around the people that have been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, so that you can learn from the mistakes that they have made, so that you can avoid some of the ones that they've done, and it will make it so much more easier in terms of that. So I hope that kind of this has given you some context about today's call, and the reason I really wanted to do today's live show really is really to give you guys a little bit of an eye opener, not just from my perspective, right? Because I'm still human after all. You may be going through the same, self-sabotaging trends, patterns, whatever you want to call it, behaviors, especially going into a new year. I wouldn't want you to like be 6 months down the line and you felt like you've not really moved forward. Does that make sense? And actually, I'm going to give you a bonus tip here as well, because one thing that's really, and again, I'm not going to mention names here for professionalism, but one thing that really bugs me as well is using money as an excuse, right? So if you've got the scarcity type of mindset where you know that another person can help you to get you that breakthrough, and then you felt, do you know what? It's not worth it. I'm going to try and work it out myself. That's a scarcity mindset, right? So if you're using fear and you're using money as a way to try to get yourself out of what you're trying to accomplish, that's really going to be that's never going to make you grow. It's just never going to make you grow. So I really kind of want to say that. Let's summarize today's conversation. So like I said, for you guys that are listening in, if you are I've been sharing some of my rookie mistakes when trying to seek clarity, direction, and focus. So the first thing, like I mentioned to you, is setting unrealistic goals and time frames. You're gonna make mistakes. There's no doubt about it, right? And through experience, okay, you're gonna know that whether it be you're trying to create a video, say a video like this, right? You know that it will take you, I don't know, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. There's going to be a time where you're going to start to measure the amount of time it takes certain activities, okay? But making sure that you set realistic goals is really, really crucially important. So that's the first one. Secondly, not being strategic, and I shared some of the examples of my not being strategic, right? And you don't have to make things complicated, right? I always say to people, less is more. And I don't know if you kind of get that, but the kind of less is more approach or mindset, I always feel like, why try to make things so much more complicated when you can make things so much more simple? And a really good example of this really actually is, I was actually with I sat down with a company a couple of days ago, and we've got a couple of scorecards, a couple of quiz marketing scorecards. And I said to her, I was like, I really kind of want to the reason I wanted to jump on this call with you is because I want to refine what we're doing, and I want to make sure that we're on point. So, she was really kind enough to really kind of give us some really great feedback and things like that, some right refinements and tunes and whatever it is. And she just said, what you've got here is great. It just needs a little bit of refinements, right? It just needs a little bit of polishing. So that kind of like felt really good, because I was being strategic with my time. I didn't want to go back and completely reinvent the wheel. Do you know what I mean? Because that takes time to set up and learn about new things, but really to refine, the processes about what we're currently doing. So that's the second one. The third one is about really, changing your environment. Don't whatever you do, try to, and I use this as what Albert Einstein would say, doing something, over and over again is the definition of insanity. Try to mix things up, okay? Try to disrupt the norm or the status quo, whatever you want to call it, okay? Because if you're sitting in the, you're sitting in an environment, you're in the same, you're listening to the same people, okay? You're never going to move forward. You're never going to seek that clarity and that direction. Number 4, I talked about copying others. I can't stand people who copy me. I wouldn't do it to other people purely because of my personal values, but also it's going to have a detrimental effect on your personal brand as well, if that makes sense. So that, copying others is an absolute no-no. It just, again, rewind this because I'm going to, and I share some of the reasons behind that. And the last one is taking advice from people that are less successful than you or have got less experience from you. I always, and I use the example of my good friend Ash Lawrence, who was with us in our Game Changers Inner Circle Mastermind. And he talks a lot about the importance of seeking people that have been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, and you aspire to those individuals, if that makes sense. Because you're going to be able to avoid some of the mistakes that they've made so that you don't make them effectively, if that makes sense. So listen, I hope that today's conversation has been useful for you guys. And like I said to you, if you're listening to me live, use the hashtag live, use the hashtag replay. If this has been of use to you and you can relate to it, some of the stories that I've shared, do me a favor, share this on your LinkedIn, your YouTube, or whatever it is, or tag and share this with somebody. If you listen to this on the podcast, of course, please do recommend the podcast to other people. I would really greatly appreciate that. And for you guys that are in need of focus, direction, and some clarity, we've also created, and I'd love to get feedback about this, Take the Business Growth Quiz. Imagine being able to learn and know exactly what area of your business you need to make improvements to. How valuable would that be for you? So the link is below. We'll put it in the podcast link. It's called How to Grow a Business.scoreapp.com. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes. At the end of it, it'll give you a great report as well about the areas of the business that you need to make some focus on and some tips and advice from myself about how you can go about doing that. So listen, I hope that today's been of use. I've thoroughly enjoyed my conversations with you guys, and have a great day, week, month whenever you listen to this. See you soon. Cheers.